Françaises, Français.
Men and women of France, fellow citizens, citizens from mainland France and our overseas territories, ever since the beginning of this crisis, I have chosen to speak to you at key moments. And now is one such moment. I have come out to meet many of you throughout France. I've spoken with you and I have sought your insight. Where are we in terms of Covid-19? Well, thanks to all of the great help from our medical staff, and thanks to all of your civic-mindedness, we have been able to keep the epidemic under control and get back to some sense of normalcy. We have seen the general phase-in of openings of restaurants and certain venues as of June. And because of all of our effort, we have seen significant results. Over the past few weeks, we have seen the number of new daily contaminations drop below the bar of 2,000 per day, compared to the peak of the crisis where it was much higher. And we have been living with this crisis for some years now. And in light of that, I would like to spare a thought for the victims and for their families. Life, for better or worse, has been able to continue going on through this time of crisis. My thoughts go out to parents of students who have had to be taught from home because their classes were closed down. A thought for those teachers. And because of everyone's involvement, we have been able to continue education through the crisis. Our schools have been closed down for only 12 weeks during the crisis. In the United States, they were closed down for some 56 weeks. And similar numbers in Germany. Our classes have been able to go back at universities for students in person. And we've been able to do so is because as a nation we took measures, we made a decision. We said that we would do everything we could to protect our youth. And this summer and in September we will continue to ramp up efforts for those students in high school, junior school and universities who are facing difficulties. And again, I said as of March 2020 that we would do everything, whatever the cost, to support financially jobs, businesses, but also our purchasing power for so many French men and women. And because of that, we have seen recovery. Growth in 2021 is at 6%, which is leading the major European economies. For the second year running, France was designated as one of the most attractive countries in Europe. And contrary to forecasts, jobs have held strong. And we have seen a drop in unemployment. In 2020, COVID dropped some 200,000 jobs, but since the beginning of the year, we have already been able to create some 187,000 jobs. In May, we had permanent contract employments reaching record levels, even above our 2006 levels. Hospitality, tourism, sporting events have all suffered, and for them they will be given specific, unique support. We have been able, because of that support, to avoid certain businesses and enterprises going under. My thought go out to all of those people who have been hard hit by those companies who did go under, because they weren't able to resist the crisis. To those people, I would like to say to you tonight that we, as a whole, we are right in trying to always seek a balance between protections and freedoms, which is why we chose to protect life without closing down our country. And we have been able to keep the situation in check, and the reason we have been able to do so is because of the decisions we have made. Choices we made. Choices that reflect the challenges that lay ahead. Yes, because as I speak to you right now, our country is facing a new spike in this crisis in both mainland and overseas territories in France. And wherever we are in France, we'll be faced with this situation of the new Delta variant. And this Delta variant is leading to an increase in cases around the world, because it is 3 times as more contagious as the previous strains. And it is not something that we can keep in check. This is something we've seen in the Netherlands, Spain and Portugal. Asia, in the South Pacific region, some countries are going back into lockdown. Japan, who is on the cusp of organizing and hosting the Olympic Games, will be faced with an Olympic Games with no spectators. So while in France things are for the time being under control, if we do not act today, the number of cases will continue to increase and will lead to more people being sent to hospital as of August. So with this new situation, we need to come up with new ways of dealing with the virus because it is so different to previous waves. All of the vaccines that we have available in France will protect us against the Delta variant. It reduces its ability to infect others by 12-fold. And it protects us against the virus, the most serious forms, by 95%. So the more we have vaccines, the more people take the vaccine, the more we will be able to fight against this virus and stop it from spreading. So that is why I would say we are once again racing against the clock. We need to spend this summer vaccinating. We need to vaccinate as many people as possible everywhere throughout France at all moments, because France is a great country, one of science, of Louis Pasteur. And that is why it is up to us to protect our citizens, and we need to have faith and trust in science, progress, and reason. So that is why we need to strive for having vaccination levels at near 100% across France, because that is the only way we will have a sound future. This is why, for those healthcarers and working in hospitals, clinics, retirement homes, people working in disabled care facilities, anyone who works in a professional capacity or volunteer capacity, working with the elderly or the most fragile people at home, they will have to be vaccinated without waiting. It is compulsory for them. Because it is thanks to your sense of duty that you will do so. For all those people who will have to be vaccinated, they have until the 15th of September to do so. And we need to start now. As of the 15th of September, checks will be carried out and fines and sanctions will be handed down for anyone who is not vaccinated. For all of those people who, for the time being, have had no dose of the vaccine, we have options available for you. But a question is to be raised. Is the vaccination to be made compulsory? It is a question, but I believe in your sense of civicism, in your sense of moral duty to go out and vaccinate as soon as possible. There are 9 million doses available today that have not yet been distributed, and we are receiving more doses by the day. There are centres close to your home, in vaccination centres at your local general practitioner. There are ways of getting the vaccine, so please do it. You protect yourselves and you protect others. It is a matter of individual responsibility, of a sense of being part of a greater whole, but it is also a matter of our freedom for each and every one of us. I think of those people who are over the age of 60, those people who are vulnerable, those people who have not yet been vaccinated. You are those people who face the greatest danger. And then I call on you to act, and we will provide vaccination centres as close as we can to the local centres by working with medical professionals, by working with also not-for-profit organizations to provide vaccinations to those people who are as far removed from the health system as possible. For middle, high and high school students and university students, we will provide you with vaccinations in your establishments as of the beginning of school after the summer break. And as we see those people who fell sick to the virus back in January and February, who have fewer antibodies in the system, when we get back after the summer, we will have a system so that you can have a new injection in the same way and in the same conditions as you already had an injection. You'll be able to take an appointment as of the first days back in September. Therefore, there should be no concern. But that said, despite the vaccine, I would call on each and every one of you to continue to respect those measures that we have already been applying to protect yourselves from each other. We will also bring in new measures to stem the spread of the virus. While yes, we have people vaccinated, the levels are not high enough. Hospitals are already under pressure, And the health emergency crisis will be declared for La Martinique and La Réunion. And curfew will be back in those two departments. For mainland France, except for those levels that have an incident case above 200, with cases of being taken to hospitals which go above that level, we will have a much more simpler approach. It will be the same way forward. We will continue to call on your civic mindedness, and we will continue to apply restrictions on those people who aren't vaccinated as opposed to restrictions on those on all. For those people traveling to France from at-risk countries, there will be measures. As of the 21st of July, a health pass will be extended to those places of culture and leisure activities. For anyone over the age of 12 to be able to attend an event, a concert, a festival, a theme park, you will have to show either your health pass, your vaccination certificate, or a negative test result. You can either show it using your smartphone or the piece of paper that is given to you when you were vaccinated. And as of August, after the legislative process has been applied, the health pass will be obligatory in cafes, restaurants, malls, hospitals, socio-medical centers, and anyone who wishes to travel by train, plane, or other long-distance travel in buses. Be you a customer, a user, or an employee working in any of these situations, you will have to have a health pass. And then we will also question whether that health pass is to be extended to other activities. As of autumn, PCR tests will no longer be free of charge unless you have symptoms. You will have to pay for those tests. And that is why we will call an extraordinary session for the Parliament as of the 22nd of July to look at a law to detail and put into law all of these decisions. No, while yes, vaccinations is not compulsory for all, we will continue to enforce and extend the health pass to encourage and incite as many people as possible to seek out the vaccination. Because the reason for this is there are other variants that may arise that are more dangerous than the Delta variant, which requires us to be even more vaccinated than we are right now. As of March 2021, France has been running the Act A initiative to produce more vaccines and to give those vaccines to the poorest countries in the world. We've already distributed some 2 million doses, and by the end of the year, we shall have distributed some tens of millions of doses. We continue to take action with all of our partners to be able to continue to produce more vaccines and provide those vaccines to the poor countries in the Balkan states, Africa, and the Near and Middle East. There are some countries that are so hard hit by the virus, and we'll continue to provide assistance to those countries. Tunisia, for example. So to continue to tackle this virus, we need to continue to vaccinate. As I said last year, we will have to learn to live with the virus. And 2021 will be no exception, nor will the first few months of 2022. Even though the vaccine does change a lot for us, it does help turn the tide, we will still need to live with the virus. And that is why we need to continue to vaccinate to help our economy thrive and recover. And that is what I want to say. This summer will be a summer of economic recovery. I have spoken with many of you around France, and we have a recovery plan that will continue to push through. We have the European agreements, 40 billion euros that were put on the table. But we can do more, and we will do more, because the more that we can bring our recovery plan into effect, the sooner we will see economic recovery. Because that is part of the way that we can help tackle in climate change. 1/3 of some of our recovery measures will be focusing on energy rehabilitation for our buildings. It will be focusing on zero-emission automotives. And that is why the government and local prefects will help focusing on these measures on the ground and investments on the ground. We can see that there are some industries that are facing major obstacles: primary resources, timber, steel, coal, semiconductors, and because of this, many construction sites and programs have been put on hold at great cost. According to the Bank of France, 1 in every 2 companies in France struggles to find necessary employees and jobs. And that's why we need to support those companies and businesses. And that's why, as of summer and autumn, we will need to be able to get back to the same levels of employment as pre-crisis levels, but also get back to a level of full employment. So, while we are working on vaccines to kick off the economy, and if we can do those 2 in September, we will be able to focus on rebuilding the future. We'll be able to discuss it through democratic means. And for that, we'll need to be able to take certain decisions. But what I would like to say is that I have some strongly held beliefs. I believe in that we need to depend less on foreign countries for some of our services, some of our technology. We need to get back to European dependency, French dependency. Because what we have lived through in this crisis is the direct consequence of being dependent on foreign nations. Because of what we have been doing since 2017, we have been able to focus on our own industries, paracetamol industries that have been brought back to France, battery productions for electric vehicles. We will have, in the northern regions of France, new EV battery production centers focusing on the heart of the French automotive industry. Just last year, I put 7 billion euros on the table to invest in our health industry. Research and factories being brought back to France. For the past 2 years, we are the leading nation in Europe for technology. So we need to continue to invest and encourage such initiatives, those initiatives that have created some 160,000 jobs. So the challenge for us is now to scale up, to take this momentum and become once again a great nation of research and innovation, farming and industry. We need to get back to the industrial heart of France, while focusing on growth and the environment, which is why we are going to drop we would like to drop certain taxes on production so that we can continue forward with this momentum. At the European level, when France will preside over the European Union as of 1st of January 2022, we will focus on creating a shared agenda for technology and industry in Europe. When we get back in September, after all the consultation phases, we will get back to creating a future plan for 2030. France in 2030 will be a country that will be a champion within Europe for the digital world, green industry, biotechnologies, and farming. We will shape the future. But I also believe in the strength that I have seen within our country throughout this crisis. Because we are brought forward by our industry, by our culture, by our ability to protect our purchasing power, and this is a jewel in our crown. The economic model that we have in France, it relies on people working, because without work, you have no production. Without production, then there's no way that we can fund partial unemployment, short-time work agreements. All of the unemployment benefits that have been given to those people throughout the crisis, which is why people need to work to fuel that economy. And that is why we will continue to invest in training, continuous training, lifelong training. And we'll provide even more training for job seekers, because we don't provide enough training to those job seekers, long-term job seekers, and we need to do more to help those long-term job seekers get back into qualified jobs. And that's why, as of October, we will bring together parliamentarians around a single goal, because in France, we need to be able to get back to work. We need to be able to get back to work, because it is a true way to earn one's living. Another focus point for me is retirement. Because in France, we have 42 different retirement and pension systems, and that creates certain levels of inequality and confusion. So we need to get back to a more simpler system for a fairer system. So the special regimes will not be applicable to those new employees in those sectors. Because yes, in the current world, we live longer, therefore we'll need to work longer and reach retirement later in life. Now, it's not going to happen tomorrow, because obviously we need to understand that there are certain jobs which are challenging, more challenging and taxing than others. And that is why, bit by bit, we need to look back at those jobs that are truly taxing, that are truly tiring. Because yes, if you spend your life working, you need to have the worthy level of pension that you deserve. So for a full career, you'll be able to earn a pension fund of more than 1,000 euros a month. This is what I want. I want clear terms, simple terms, to make the current retirement system a cleaner, simpler system, a fairer system. And I want to do so without increasing taxes. So this is why I have called on the government, Jean Castex, to speak with trade unions so that we can be ready for the reform. But I will not kick off the reform until the epidemic is under control and recovery is back in gear. My third belief is that we need to kick off an economy and best support those people who were the hardest hit by this crisis, the young. The younger generations who are concerned more than anyone else for their future. For the young people in France, we need to continue to invest in early childhood education, because that is the most crucial part in a person's life, and that's why we need to support them as we come out of this crisis. For those people who are just entering the workforce, we've created the Un jeune, une solution, one young person, one solution platform, so that a young person, the second they get out of formal education, can seek out an apprenticeship or can seek out some form of contract, so that they can have an employment. There were 526,000 people in 2020 who were on an apprenticeship. That was a record level. So we need to ramp up that focus. And that is why when we get back to work in September, we will continue to roll out programs for youth employment. We owe it to the younger generations. We owe it to them for the future. But on top of that, we also need to provide support to the elderly. So, focusing on the youth, by protecting the elderly, this is what I want to focus on, because it is focusing on all generations that will be able to build a stronger France for the future. And these programs, they need to be funded, but they will be funded not through increases in taxes. The habitation tax was cut off. The drop in income tax was also dropped. And that drop, it means an extra 170 euros per month for people on minimum salaries. So what we will have to do is find ways of funding that, and we will do so without negatively impacting on the lower income classes. But we'll also do so without letting debt run high. Because the younger generations, they already need to bear the cost of the environmental debt that we've put on their shoulders. I will not put financial debt on their shoulders too. So this is why we need to continue to invest, to work longer, to innovate, to invent, to improve our growth vectors, to continue reform the state, reform the government, as we've already done by getting rid of certain national institutions within administration, by also making the entire system much simpler. So that is why we will get back control of our future. When we take back control of our lives as citizens. And that is the goal for future. Take back control of our lives, to ensure that each and every one of us can find their own personal, professional, family, civic destiny, their civic future in our country. So there are so many answers that I have to your questions, answers that I could not speak of tonight. Because tonight I was here to speak of the health crisis. But there are so many other issues that face our country. The lack of respect towards law enforcement agents, the violence that happens within our homes, domestic violence, predominantly against women, the uncertainty of future for our younger generations. I understand and I hear concern. But to be able to respond to that, we need to further reform our nation, come up with a new national model for our country. Because the world is changing. The world is changing because of initiatives that France is carrying forward. And in the early days of summer 2021, remember that the international community has taken unprecedented measures to tax multinationals at a rate of 15% to put an end to tax havens and tax avoidance. And France was on the forefront and is continuing to help push Europe and the world forward. Fellow citizens, this summer is going to be a time where we can get back to meet our family, friends and loved ones. But yet, we need to still be wary. We need to still be wary of the virus and still vaccinate. But I call on you, and I have faith in you, to remain calm and collected so that when we get back to work in September, we will be ready to build an independent France, one that does not look back on the past with a heavy heart, with nostalgia. France will be a victorious France, one that looks forward to the future. It will be a united France, one that shows support for each other, one that stands true in times of hardship and in times of hope. Long live the French Republic, long live France.